Hey, this is Pastor Dave, and this is your Memorial Day Monday Mojo 2026. Hope you had a great weekend. And I think I can think, after you hear the balance of this, you may understand why I say that this will be the last Monday Mojo dealing with knee replacement. But it is, again, about my second knee replacement. It's very interesting. I went into it, I've heard stories from all different kinds of people about knee replacement. And the biggest seemingly common denominator from most of those stories was pain. Lots of pain. And so I went into the first knee replacement with the idea that it was going to be a painful, grueling recovery and rehab. Kind of mentally prepared myself for that. So I was ready to go. Okay, this is going to take some work. You got to put your head down. You got to sweat. You might have to cry. You might have to yell a little bit, but it's going to be worth it in the end to do the work. So that's what I went into the first knee replacement with. And it turned out to be painful, but doable. There was not, it wasn't that there wasn't any pain. It's just, it was doable. So when I was getting ready for the second knee replacement, people were like, I'm sure you're really looking forward to it. And I said, actually, I am. I want to get this done so I can have both knees working properly, get back to living my life. I wasn't mentally prepared for the kind of pain that's going on in this second round and the kind of work and the kind of put your head down and get through it. And you might have to yell and you might have to scream. And wait a minute, that's what I was prepared for the first time around, but I wasn't really prepared for it this time. So I'm kind of getting back to it and getting into that rhythm. But it made me think about the disciples. You know, Jesus comes along one day, and they'd seen him, they'd heard him, they'd watched him teach, maybe even seen him do a few miracles, heard him heal people. And and so when Jesus came along and said, I want you to follow me, they probably in their mind had some ideas of how that was going to go, how that was going to turn out. And so they started following him. And then it started blowing their minds, and it was more than they could have ever imagined. And it was pretty awesome. And they were going, this is great. This is fantastic as they were following him. Then, after about 3 years, when they were really probably kind of getting used to what it meant to follow Jesus and to be his team and one of his 12 and one of his disciples and the women too, what it meant to be following around Jesus, just when they thought they kind of had it all figured out, he goes and gets himself crucified and publicly humiliated and is dead. And now they got to reimagine what that means. Now they got to retool in their mind, what do we do now? And then 3 days later, he comes back from the dead. He's risen from the dead. He gives them a whole different command. He says, I want you to wait here in Jerusalem until the power comes on you. Okay, what does that mean? So they waited and the Holy Spirit came. And we just celebrated that on Pentecost Sunday. But it was a constant, hey, I know what I think. I think I know what this means. I got myself mentally prepared for it. And then, wait a minute, I had no idea what was going to happen. And yet, following Jesus was the most rewarding, the most awesome thing that they ever did with their lives. And I would say it's probably still the same today. I would say that when Jesus calls you to follow him, you kind of maybe have an idea what that looks like, maybe from what you've heard or what you've seen in church, or what you've seen in other people. And yet, when you start to follow him, you really, really never know quite what it's going to be like. So, gearing yourself up to follow Christ is okay, but at the same time, I think you got to be open to what's it going to be like and be ready to adapt and to be flexible and to flip, as they say today, to be ready to go wherever it is that Jesus calls you to go. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Um, as I said, I think, pretty sure it's going to be the last Mojo about knee replacement, but it just struck me. Sometimes you get yourself all worked up for something and it isn't what it is, and sometimes you don't get worked up at all and it is. And just be ready for whatever. That's my thought. Have a great week.